first job with Eccentrics, who I was with for 5 years. They were a luxury fashion brand, and they, British brand, and when I joined them, they started, their turnover was only 200,000 turnover. And in the time I was with them over those 5 years, they became a massive global brand, stocked in the best department stores around the world globally, and they were turning over 2 million. Now, back in the 90s, that was, you know, a significantly successful British brand. And they went from strength to strength. And this is a royal visit from Princess Anne, who came to talk to us about what we did in our daily jobs for the brand. And so there's me talking about the lay plan and how you do the placement print and put the pattern on the fabric, and also what we did to check the fabric and secure the integrity of the brand by checking every single panel of velvet and silk that came in. And we very proudly made everything in England. So we talked about a lot of those elements. And during my time working with Eccentrics, for 3 years of that time, we developed ready-to-wear collections. It just started off as a scarf range, then it went to 3 clothing pieces, which were a tunic, a shirt and a waistcoat, and then went to full clothing collections of 90-piece collections every season, huge, massive scarf range selection, and also catwalk collection. And this is the catwalk collection. And these particular pieces, there was only one-offs made, and this one 20 years ago I got as a sample, and I've worn it and loved it until I can't really fit into it anymore. But I thought I'd bring it along just to show you, you know, the beauty of something, designing something that's absolutely beautiful, that's timeless, will last forever. And that's the kind of fashion that we believe in, and we try to develop for our clients. Get the clicker to work again. Thank you. And then I left Eccentrics to come and live in Hong Kong 20 years ago, to the week that we are to here. And I first came to Hong Kong Fashion Week 20 years ago. So it's a very proud moment to be sat here today, actually speaking here at Hong Kong Fashion Week, because this is where my overseas sourcing journey began. Starting at Hong Kong Fashion Week, going around and seeing some of the incredible suppliers that were here, and I developed relationships with those, and then it's led to many more sort of suppliers and working with China. And then I married it with working with British brands back in the UK that were looking for good manufacturers that would do small minimum quantities. And I went back and started doing a market stall as well of inspiration. That's where I met a lot of design companies as well, who would come and source and buy vintage or vintage customized from me when I was at Portobello Market or Spitalfields Market. So it was a very exciting time to be marrying overseas, working with luxury brands, bringing them and helping them develop their fashion brands. And particularly with brands like Pt.2, she had just launched at London Fashion Week, £250,000 in her first season of launching of orders on the order books, and didn't have a factory that could cope with that kind of amount of production. She only had 3 styles, she didn't have a spec sheet, and so I helped train and develop and, you know, created all of her sort of products into technical garments, helped put them into and source the factory partners that we needed, you know, sourcing the silk tulle in France, then putting the manufacture together, getting the corsets here in Hong Kong and China, and then marrying all of that together to create a supply chain that was tailored for her. And that's led her on to becoming a huge brand. And that's the kind of thing that we do for our clients. Sometimes they can keep us involved, and sometimes they go on and work on their own. And that led me on to eventually starting my own label called Forever Young. This particular dress was my best-selling dress, and it was vintage-inspired clothing, as you can see, and it was, we sold hundreds and hundreds of this particular piece in this colour. It's a top-selling colour, interestingly, because I chose not to do any black, because I just felt like too many people wear black and looking out and seeing everyone in black. But it was just as a way of actually move yourself into a colour that could suit you. And it was incredibly interesting how successful that was, because I only did dual colours at the time. And so people would choose a colour that suited their skin tone, but it really made them radiant. So it was a great concept. And then I soon, I loved developing my heirlooms and creating beautiful timeless pieces from old vintage pieces, moving them on in developing. But then, and launched at London Fashion Week. But at the same time, I found out I was pregnant. And so I soon, before I knew it, I had 2 children. And a 3rd baby was just not possible to manage. So I made my clothing label dormant at that time. And this was, I guess, about 10 years ago. So my daughters now, Eva on the left and Honor on the right, are now 12 and 10. So they've given me a ticket to be able to come away from them, because they're much more grown up now and they're more independent. But at that time I had to make a choice of what I put my time and energy into. But I carried on consulting, and